Hello, this is Heather. It's me, the Liberty Librarian, and Rory, who's gonna stomp across this in any second. I just see him coming. Don't put your feet on that. Oh my god. Oh my god. Come on. Okay. Look at the camera. There's a cat. He's going down. Oh, how you doing? Oh my god. It's always like you start the show and then that's when the craziest stuff happens. And the cats, they're watching and they wait. They wait until you start. So how y'all doing? I hope you're having a great week. We're still waiting to see who our president of our country is. How fun and exciting is that? I looked a little bit ago while I was getting set up for the show and I didn't see anything yet. And I'm just not thinking it's going to happen tonight. But that's not the most important thing about the day. I'm going to take a sip. Cheers to you. I'm still doing Sober October. Tonight I am doing the Hoplark hop tea, the chamomile one. So it's nice and chill night tonight. It's been going pretty good. I've been doing the low carb, no alcohol thing for a little bit. Although I think this weekend I am about ready to break fast and do that. Hello. It's to Gator. Hello, TLO Minneapolis. How you doing? Nice to see you again. Oops, I gotta turn off my mail or it's gonna keep going bloop 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 and demand my attention constantly. So today is the 5th of November, and most people in the world it probably means nothing except that we still haven't found out who our president is, which I'm really not really all that excited either way, because I'm pretty sure neither of them are that great that I'm super excited. But it'd be nice to know, right? We all want to know. Break the fast. Well, this weekend, I'm gonna celebrate my friend Kara Schultz victory as city councilwoman of Burnsville. So I'm going to have small amounts of alcohol, but I will have a little bit. And then I will go back to being a good girl all week. So yes, I'm, only the best of occasions can break my fast on this. But, they always say a little bit, enjoy yourself a little bit. So that way your body doesn't go too crazy if you all of a sudden stop a diet or whatever. So I'm trying. I've been really sticking to it though. I've been really good about it. So I think that's pretty good. I've been doing really good. So today is, a day they call the Gunpowder Plot, right? We're gonna talk a little bit about that. It's Guy Fawkes Day. Not a huge thing in America. It is big thing in the UK, and they celebrate it tonight. They call it Bonfire Night as well because you know what? They burn shit. That's what they do in the UK, and I love it. I totally wish I was outside making a fire right now, and actually I have a little fire pit, so I might be doing that after the show. I'm very excited. So what it's all about is, the Gunpowder Plot. Let me just go right into it. We have some intellectual freedom news later, and it ties kind of weirdly into the topic of the night. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Gunpowder Plot, what it is, who the people are involved, and then media stuff that's kind of latched onto it and taken it a little bit in a different direction, even though historically it's not really like that. Oh, you're the new host. Hello, new host. Nice. Welcome. And, honestly, we're all family on Freedom Revolution Network. So check out all the great shows on all of the, my brain isn't even working today. Blah. It's because of all the election stuff. How many of you have even had great sleep lately? It's just like trying to figure out what's going on in our country. And the potential is when they do announce the news, there's already protests going on everywhere. There's the potential for big riots is very high. So just to say, I can feel it in the air. There's electricity everywhere, and it gives me both the chills and a little bit of exhaustion. So hopefully you're sleeping. Hopefully you're taking care of yourself. I know a lot of people are exhausted after all the election stuff, door knocking, going around, just seeing who's going to win. And if you are interested in libertarian news, last night we had an awesome show on the Sweet Subversives, and I highly recommend it. We got to talk to a lot of winning candidates. If you've ever been interested in running for office in your life, it's a great show to hear, because you got to hear like some of the inside mechanicals of how the system works, things that worked for people, people that they appreciated in the hard work that it went into them winning their campaigns. So it was a really cool show. It made me so inspired that I'm like, maybe I should run for some sort of office or join like some government board, try to make some change from the inside, baby. So there's like the angel and the devil on my shoulder all the time. Like the devil is like, let's burn this shit down, and the angel's like, let's work from the inside, Heather. And usually I listen to the angel, but a little bit today I've been thinking about burning the shit down because of Guy Fawkes Day. So we will explore that a little bit. So anyway, Guy Fawkes Day. This is the failure of the Gunpowder Plot of 1605, so like 400 years ago, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Here we have some stories. Their aunt was the first female tow trucker in Minneapolis. She owns a majority of the record companies up there. Cool. I like that when people have the connection. They make the connection. It makes us all stronger. So the Gunpowder Plot was led by Robert Catesby, who was a zealous Roman Catholic that was enraged at King James I for refusing to grant greater religious tolerance to Catholics. So ultimately, a religious was inspired by religious zealots, they'd say, because they wanted to kill a bunch of people. So that's where it came from. A lot of the people who are excited by the Gunpowder Plot, Guy Fawkes Day, they think it's more anti-parliament, when really it was actually the original intent was religious anger. So just to let you know, they planned to blow up the Houses of Parliament during the state opening of Parliament, intending to kill the king and members of parliament in order to clear the way to reestablishing Catholic rule in England. So, yes, this is one of the things I want to talk about today. Your required viewing for after we talk about it tonight, if you haven't already seen it, is V for Vendetta is one of them. It isn't about the Gunpowder Plot exactly. It mentions it. It has a lot of themes that are similar to it, but it is what has taken the modern connotation of the Gunpowder Plot about, a quick lesson on the 5th of November. We will learn about this. So you learn about anarchy and going against evil mechanizations in the government. And this is why a lot of people think that, they want to just blow up Parliament to stop government. So it's a lot of anarchy feelings towards it. And it has blossomed, and one of my favorite all-time TV shows touches upon the themes of that as well, Mr. Robot, if you've ever seen that show. And if you haven't, that's my other required viewing of the evening. Yes, you can't watch all of Mr. Robot in one night, but it is an excellent TV series, and it goes into some of my own fantasies about what would happen if you overthrew the government or you got rid of the banking system, and what would happen next. And it isn't always like the happy-go-lucky feeling like, now we have utopia and everything's fine. It was the sad realization that even when you do something, like another head pops up and takes over. So, fighting oppression. I love it. Yes. It is quite good. Oh, hi, Grant. Welcome. So, gentlemen, we are celebrating November 5th. It's a national day of Thanksgiving by Parliament. So Parliament now celebrates Guy Fawkes Day because they didn't get their asses blown up. How ironic is that? so the first celebration of it took place the next year in 1606. So Parliament has been celebrating the heck out of Guy Fawkes Day for this many years. And they look at it as a success and stopping a plot against them. And I think it's really interesting that this is like our election time. Like that technically we would have already known who our presidents and most of our elected officials would be by now in the United States. So I always think it's interesting that they chose to have it a few days before the 5th of November, even though we're not, one of the British colonies anymore. We are tied a lot to their belief systems, and we came from them, So I think that the reason they did it before that is so people wouldn't think about blowing up the White House, blowing up our houses of government and all of that, because it's all tied together. So in the UK today, which is like probably already happening, the number of countries that are formerly part of the British Empire, they celebrate with parades, fireworks. So it's like 4th of July there. But for them, it is bonfires and food. So it's a big freaking party. It's very pagan seeming and awesome. And I think I would love the hell out of that. So they also burn straw effigies of Guy Fawkes, and they toss them into the bonfire to show that. I'm thinking it means that they're like stopping the radicals who want to destroy our government. But I think it's taken on a different spin in the modern days, because a lot of people they take it as like, yes, we should burn down Parliament, all of that. And in this case, does that mean that the fires represent that they wish it would burn? I don't live there. It just kind of seems like it to me. Oh, and you can't get away with having this night without reciting the rhyme that is associated with the occasion. I was going to try to find a really cool video, but every time I try to do that, YouTube like shuts me down. The man doesn't want me to play any cool recordings because it always sounds better in a British voice, if you ask me. But the only one I could find that was Creative Commons license was a robot British voice. And it was annoying because the words were said very wrong. So I'm going to do my best, guys. So I will read it to you. So, remember the 5th of November, gunpowder treason and plot. We see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. So yes, I'm still in spooky Halloween mode. I just think it's kind of a cool holiday. How can we, what do we even have in the United States that even like relates to something like that? To like we celebrate a failure. I kind of love it. That's a very British thing to do, don't you think? It's like, yay, he didn't succeed. That's awesome. So anyway, the fireworks are definitely a major component of the Guy Fawkes celebrations. They represent the explosives that were never used by the plotters. The guards perform an annual search of the Parliament buildings. How funny is this? To check for potential arsonists, although it's more ceremonial than serious. I think it'd be funny though if somebody's sitting there with like a match, like, I'm burning it down. What would they do? Lewes in southeastern England is a site of the celebration of Guy Fawkes Day that has a local flavor, involving 6 bonfire societies whose memberships are grounded in family history stretching back for generations. They take this shit seriously. So then a little bit more about the Gunpowder Plot I will just go into. They assembled the conspirators. They had, they killed everybody that was involved in this. So the people who were involved were Catesby, Winter, Fawkes, along with Percy, who joined in May and met in the house And they swore an oath of secrecy, heard mass, and took communion. So it's like a holy war kind of thing, really. They were very serious that they were probably going to die doing this. And Fawkes was hardcore about it, and he was the one that was stuck there. So what they said was there's a great hunting match was organized in Warwickshire and by Digby, to which the large members of the Roman Catholic gentry were invited. They were to join the plot after successful accomplishment of the explosion of November 5th, the day fixed for opening of Parliament. So immediately after the explosion, the plotters were to take possession of the Princess Elizabeth, so they're going to kidnap her ass, while Percy was to seize the infant Prince Charles and bring him on horseback to their meeting place. So they're going to kidnap the family that was left over, so that way they could take over and they would get a new ruler in to England. So the conspirators imagined that a terrorized and helpless government would readily agree to all their demands because they were being super terrorists. They're like, yeah, of course they're going to do everything we say. They wouldn't have. But until this point, the secret had been well kept. And they prepared, they got ready, and so among their peers, they're going to assassinate many Roman Catholics. They had thought many Roman Catholics had been assassinated, and the lords closely connected, or in kinship or friendship with the plotters themselves. Oh my God, it just is just crazy. Like, so much. It goes on and on. Like, all of this stuff, it's hello, Kara. Hello. The craziness of the conspiracy is that there's so many people involved, and usually a lot of successful terrorists, it is well planned, but to this level, it's surprising how many people were involved. And I figure it was because of the religious kind, like the aspect of it, that they felt like they really wanted to have their own Catholic king in rule, and they wanted to get rid of him. So there had been a letter that had been found, and they had said that they didn't think it was true. The king had been shown the letter on November 4th that they were planning on killing him and the people in Parliament. So they arrived at this cellar. The door was opened by Fawkes. Seeing the enormous pile of firewood, they asked the name of the owner, to which Fawkes replied they belonged to Percy. The name immediately aroused suspicion, and then it was ordered on further search that was made by Thomas Kingyet, a Westminster magistrate. He accompanied his men on the night of November 4th to 5th, so it was the middle of the night, right? Discovered the gunpowder and arrested Fawkes on the threshold. Fawkes, under torture, revealed the names of his confederates and the extent of their participation on the plot on November 9th. So, like 4 days from now, he broke. They worked him hard. So they got out everybody, all the conspirators. So all of them, upon the arrest, fled in parties by different ways, rejoining each other in Warwickshire, and as had been agreed upon if the plot had been successful. However, Catesby informed his friends in Warwickshire, who had been awaiting the outcome of the plot, of its failure. It failed. So he assured Digby, however, that both James and Salisbury were dead. Catesby pushed on the same day with his companions in the direction of Wales, where it was hoped they would be joined by bands of insurgents. So they're hoping that even though they failed, that people would rise up and fight the government and they would win. So the arrest of Fawkes, however, kind of dampened that. Water was thrown on their plans, and it fizzled out completely. So they had arrived on November 6th with about 36 people, not enough to take over an entire country. Not one came to take her part, though we had expected so many. They were being followed by the sheriff and all of the force of the county, and their options had all but vanished. One by one, the followers fled from the house in which the last scene would be played out. So the police all showed up to where all the other conspirators were, not Guy Fawkes, because he had already been arrested and was spilling the beans. The explosion, they exploded some of the remaining gunpowder on the morning of November 8th, struck terror into the hearts of the remaining conspirators. as a judgment from heaven. So they undermined their assurance of their innocence and the justness of their cause. The greatness of their crime now struck home. Treason, baby. So at about 11 a.m., the sheriff and his men came up and began firing upon the house. So the three of the conspirators, Catesby, Percy, and Wright, were killed. Winter and Rookwood were wounded and taken prisoner with the men who remained with them. In all, 8 of the conspirators, including 2 Winters, Digby, Fawkes, Rookwood, Keyes, and Bates, were executed, while Tresham died in the Tower of London. All the priests involved, Garnet was tried and executed, while Greenway and Gerald escaped to the continent. So 2 got away. So now they had risked all and lost all in fighting this for the Roman Catholics in England, but their crime injured the cause for which they had such devotion. So it made, even though, we have Catholics everywhere to this day, and it just hurt their cause so badly that laws against Roman Catholics became more and more severe because of what they did. So it really had bad repercussions against Catholics for like hundreds of years, honestly. So the plot intensified Protestant suspicions of Catholics and led to rigorous enforcement of the recusancy law, which fined those who refused to attend Anglican services. So if you wanted to worship as a Catholic, you were punished greatly in the UK. So in January of 1606, Parliament established November 5th as a day of public thanksgiving. And the day, now known as Guy Fawkes Day, is still celebrated with bonfires, fireworks, and carrying of the guys through the streets. So they like the man in the UK. And Guy Fawkes, I read a little bit about him today. And a show on the Wikipedia, a little drawn picture. I think that's so cute. I like the hat and everything. Very roguish. And they make him always look like he's in darkness because he's plotting, But the torture part was the thing that bothers me the most in all of this story, actually. I can understand why people... It's like, with Catholics, they're everywhere is a constant thing, right? They're everywhere. I know it. And so Fawkes was tortured in the Tower of London. And the king actually composed a list of questions to put to them, like where he got his information, who he trained with. And I think that they are looking for like everyone that could be involved. And they showed his signature after his torture is barely evident scrawl compared to the later incidents. So I just hold this up to the screen. Like the one on the the one on the bottom that's dark, that was before he had been tortured, and the one on the top, like you can barely read his handwriting, that was after he was tortured. So they did some bad shit to that poor guy, and I don't know how poor he was, if he's trying to kill people, but I'm not super into like torturing people to get information, but I guess it worked. It worked, so there you go. And the British are really proud of that. So what I think is funny is that in that country, they celebrate with bonfires, and I think they're celebrating Parliament being successful. In our country, when we think of it, we think of the V for Vendetta mask, the Guy Fawkes mask, with the little mustache, and I don't know what you call this, where it's the little thing down the middle of the chin. What would you even call that? Mustached, upturned ends. They say a thin, vertical, pointed beard. The design has come to represent a broad protest effort. It was used in the major plot element for V for Vendetta. And that was a graphic novel comic from 82 to 89. And then in 2005, they did the film. A lot of people don't know that it's based on comics. So, which is a very, very good movie. And I really think that you all should watch it. What it is now to us is more of a subtle thing. It is more anti-government. It is more fighting the system. It is more looking for the corruption within and doing everything you can to have revolution. And I think it's the beautiful part of it, that we can become faceless and we can use the tools of our enemies against them. And it's the anonymous mask. And that was one of the things that made me think about, some of the media things that have come about based on Guy Fawkes. And, like I'm a child of where the 90s really affected me in a lot of the films I watched in the early 2000s. And I think about how V for Vendetta was a seed that led to things like Fight Club, even, going against the system from the inside, and Mr. Robot, one of my favorite shows. And they're even in Mr. Robot, they have the characters, when they film themselves on TV, it's almost like I always think of it as like the Monopoly Man face. It's like a mask, but it is definitely a callback to the V for Vendetta Guy Fawkes mask. And if I can just find, there is a really cool article in Vulture where they show, it's too dark. Let's see if I can find it again. There it is. Let me just pull up that picture. I think you guys will appreciate it. If I click on it, there we go. Let me show it to you real quick. Oh, come on. There we go. Share screen. Chrome tab. Here you go. This is what I'm talking about. So the one in the middle is the Guy Fawkes mask, V for Vendetta, and that's from the movie. On the left, it was Eyes Wide Shut, and I think that represents the rich, the powerful, having masks, and their identities are lost in their corruption. And on the right is what I think of as the Monopoly Man without the top hat mask that they used in Mr. Robot. And Mr. Robot, the series, was definitely more about overthrowing corporations and governments that have become corrupt. And they hide behind the mask so they can speak for everyone. And I think that's one of the things that is appealing to everyone, is that when you wear the mask, we are all Mr. Robot, or we are all, Guy Fawkes. It looks like Mr. Monopoly Guy lost all of his railroads. He's mad. Yeah, I would be too. Are any of you good at Monopoly? Because I would play it, and I get the game, I understand it, but I just don't like how long it lasts. And there's always somebody who takes it way too seriously, and they have to have everything. They have to win it all. And if they don't win the way they want to, or you come up with a different way to counteract the way they're playing, it's always those people who lose their shit so hard. So I don't really like Monopoly, because it usually ends in somebody is mad at you. So, but Uno is super fun. That's my random shit for the moment. Yeah. So anyway, Mr. Robot was one of those shows where they had the most unreliable narrator. Now, I don't know if in a show where they take over the world in some ways, and then they at the same time fail terribly, when you have such an unreliable narrator, if it's supposed to make us feel better that the people I'm okay. I'm glad you're okay. I'm okay too. That unreliable narrators kind of represents insanity. And definitely Elliot in Mr. Robot was an insane character. And characters like that may say things like, I want to give people money back. He lost family. His father died of cancer because of a corporation cover up. and his best friend's mother died from the same thing. A lot of people got cancer, and then the company covered it up. So it has mirrorings in our society of Enron, and oh my God, you make people wangry, really angry, wild angry. I'm trying to, like, that's a good word, wangry. It's sort of like hangry, wangry. When I played them at Uno. I know I love Uno though. That's super fun. I don't mind that game. I don't know if I ever can get too mad at people, but I do win a lot when I play Uno. I don't know if that's the thing. I'm like, ha ha ha, be angry at me if you want, but I'm gonna win, maybe. Not always. But chess, I'm terrible, you know. So, and I appreciate intelligence and plotting, and I always think that's the best kind of evil geniuses in the world, are the ones who see things like 10 steps out, and you just like, I didn't see it coming. Wow, I appreciate that. Elliot in this Mr. Robot series, he was that smart. He could predict what was going to happen next, and his only shortfall was the fact that he couldn't trust himself. He'd lose himself in, like split personalities and all that. You're just like, is it him? Yeah, spoiler alert. There's some mental health issues going on there. But to what like, I love that show would put me on the edge all the time. And yet the themes of, like, all he really wanted to was to break the money system and give money back to everyone. So it was an equalizer. Would that be the right thing to do? And it answered the question. They did it, and the rich still were rich and the poor were still poor. And just for a moment, you got a little drop in the bucket that made it feel better for a little bit. You got some money back, but the rich got it all back in the end. So it was one of those sad fairy tales that make me think about where it all started was a bunch of Catholics in I think in a basement, but it was probably in somebody's house, planning to get rid of Parliament, and it led to people today thinking about our shitty ass government and the fact that, what can we do about it? And ultimately, you look at things like Mr. Robot, and they kind of go, you can try, but they have so much more going for them than we do, and they're going to win every time. They've stacked the deck. They are going to win. So to the revolutionaries, I get it. You have to keep trying. You have to find a way. The system is very corrupt, and I worry for all of us right now, because I know there are people out there. They're out on, like in Minnesota, they're on I-94 the other night, and they're probably out there still protesting and trying, because they know that no matter who we get, it's all messed up. Everything is. So that's that devil and angel on my shoulder thing. Once again, do I want to burn it all down, or do I want to work from the inside and fix it and try to make it better? And after, when I was younger, I would have said burn it all down, start over. But I'm getting older and maybe wiser. I don't know. I think we got to try to fix some of it. But doesn't mean you have to roll over and take it, okay? I think that if you're really angry, most of them got arrested, Heather. But for everyone that gets arrested, everyone else will get angry, and there'll be more out there the next day. I know it. And they can't keep you in jail forever. They'll be out there. They'll be protesting again. The system's too effed up. People are going to protest. And I got to tell you, I'm not sure which way they'd protest more, but I do think if Trump wins again, people are going to lose their shit. I mean, Biden wins, people might be happy, but I'm like, same as it ever was, baby. They're all the same. And I just think that, they've been 600 people? Holy balls, dude. That's a lot of suppression of freedom of speech. Yeah, they don't want any inciting. They are very scared of us right now, and it terrifies me that they are just throwing people in jail without knowing, like, why are you there? What are you doing? You know, it's bullshit. So, Guy Fawkes, there you go. The more you know. Dun, dun, dun. You have that little rainbow go over my head. The more you know about Guy Fawkes. So, now that we're talking about protests and riots and what's coming next, probably in the next few days. Oh, do you think we'll know? Do you think we'll ever know who's the president? How long can they wait? How long will it be before we know? I don't even know. But in my intellectual freedom news, that I get a lot of from the American Library Association Intellectual Freedom news blog, they talked in The Guardian about how nearly 1,000 instances of police brutality are recorded in the U.S. In anti-racism protests. So, police brutality is what the protests were about killing Black people, about abusing Black people and people of color, and the police are brutalizing the people who are protesting it and protesting the system and the angry. Oh my goodness, I just keep seeing your comments. Drop people off miles out of town after arrested kind of made me laugh. Like, you can't get back. It reminds me when they do stuff like that, you know how you trap like a raccoon in your yard or like a rat or something in your house, and you have a trap and you don't want to kill it, but you just take it out in the middle of the country like it's going to do well out there. Like, here you go. Don't come back, little bugger. You know, like they're treating people like little vermins, you know? Vermin. Varmints. What is that? A southern word? Varmint? Anyway. So the U.S. is currently experiencing one of the longest continued periods of civil unrest in generations. And that is like, makes me go, no shit, UK. And after demonstrations sparked by George Floyd's death expanded to protest against Black Americans killed by police and systemic racism in the country. So it's gotten out of control, and it's going to keep happening. Retaliation by police against civilians and the press is so widely documented in the first wave of protest, but as the protests continued, so too is the violence. There's not been a single week without an evidence of police brutality against a civilian or journalist at a protest in the U.S. since the end of May. So that is just great. They had a picture of a journalist fleeing the Minnesota State Patrol officers as they sprayed journalists with pepper spray and fire rubber bullets at them outside of the 5th Precinct Station on May 30th of 2020. So not only are they attacking and brutalizing protesters, but the journalists who are covering the protests are being brutalized as well. So at least 950 instances of police brutality against civilians and journalists during the protests had occurred in the last 5 months, according to data collected by Bellingcat and Forensic Architecture and analyzed by The Guardian in the UK. So the database shows that there are more than 1,000 violations, including, here's a list of some of the things that they've done. More than 500 instances of police using less lethal rounds, such as pepper spray and tear gas. 60 incidents of officers using unlawful assembly to arrest protesters. 19 incidents of police being permissive to the far right and showing double standards when confronted with white supremacists. 5 attacks on medics. Yeah, I remember hearing about that. 11 instances of kettling. Now, I'm going to look that word up. That sounds like a British word for something. Kettling, police. What does that mean? Kettling is a police tactic for controlling large crowds during demonstrations or protests. It involves the formation of large cordons of police officers. So they're kind of moving you forward very aggressively. There you go. I learned something new. So then, originally the data focused on attacks on the media, and almost 150 incidents were identified by 2 It's like in June, but the collection was expanded to include incidents involving civilians during the protests too. So the data is probably an undercount, as it only documented and verified incidents. I know for a fact that every time I saw, like unicorn, what do you call it? The unicorn media, unicorn riot. Ugh, my words. Like Gonzo guerrilla media that's out there, and people that I know that live up in the Twin Cities are recording incidents. Every single one of them had tear gas fired at them, had rubber bullets fired at them. So it is underestimated by far. But at least this is a start where they are starting to collect data, and it can be used against the police. So I'm glad to see that they're doing that. Also in not just Minneapolis area, but more than 200 incidents took place in Portland, and police spent more than $117,500 on tear gas and less than lethal munitions in a 6-week period from late May. So that was according to Oregon Live. Police stocked up on rubber ball rounds, pepper spray grenades, and foam marker rounds as protesters held demonstrations on more than 100 consecutive nights between May and September. They repeatedly found themselves subjected to these less than lethal munitions. By and large, these kind of things have been used on mostly peaceful protests. And this is coming out of Portland that they mentioned. It definitely does feel like a disproportionate use of force for what's going on in the crowd. Absolutely right. You're attacking our own people. One person, a protester in July, Donovan Labella, was shot in the head with less than lethal munition at a demonstration. He suffered a fractured skull and spent the last 2 months in and out of a hospital. So there are repercussions of what they're doing to people. The excessive use of tear gas has meant that gas has seeped inside the homes of people, and who weren't even at the protest. So if you live in those areas, you're getting gassed in your own home. The indiscriminate use of tear gas at the protest, it's nonstop brutality. It's causing irreparable harm, not just physical, said the board president of Don't Shoot Portland. So it's a lot of trauma in cities like New York City, Seattle, Minneapolis, and Los Angeles. It's extensively documented, but it's happened everywhere, all around the country, and it is not going to stop. I have this feeling that after seeing that we have had 600 people being picked up in downtown Minneapolis for this, and like, I don't think it's all tied into the same thing, but the feeling is there, the feeling of this desperation for them to hear us, to do something and not attack us, to show that there is something wrong and we need to fix it. And instead of listening, they are attacking. They're doing absolutely what they shouldn't. And the police are to blame for a lot of this. And a lot of people in government are supporting this. So they need to find a way to stop. And they're absolutely targeting people of color. I've read on one of the ones I'm not going to read tonight was about how Twitter was looking at people of color and targeting them to figure out where people are protesting. So they're, what do you call it? When you look at people by their physical description and use that to think that they're going to do a crime. Yes, that's what they're doing. They're following people on social media to see, stalking them basically into figuring out what crimes they're going to commit and setting them up. That's what they're doing. So they're using the idea of unlawful assembly to arrest protesters. Has also been a pervasive tactic in shutting down protests. The data documents 60 incidents of officers using unlawful assembly. Almost half of these incidents took place in Portland. They say that no law should restrict the right of people peacefully to assemble, and they should petition the government for redress of grievances. But experts argue the police actions have failed to abide by that notion. Central democratic practice of gathering in the streets with other people to get your voices heard is one of the most important things in our country. We need to protect that. And so there's often a focus on elections. And elections are obviously important, especially this time of year. But the government needs to respond to things that are not working in society, not just put this under their rug. It needs to be something they focus on. So the fact that they're supporting far-right national groups and letting them protest and taking Black Lives Matter groups and targeting them with non-lethal weapons shows that there is something to it. There's something going on, and we need to be serious about it. So, how serious can we be, Heather? Well, this is a super interesting. I'm going to end with this tonight. I have like so many articles, and I had one about TikTok, and they're going to ban it again. It's like on and off, on and off. Will they, won't they? I don't know. So be aware of that. But this is the one that ties into the police brutality. And I thought this was bonkers. It was in the New York Times last week. It was October 21st. Activists turn facial recognition tools against the police. They're going to use their own tools against them. And I love this. So this is written by Kashmir Hill from the New York Times, and I am super excited about it. We're now approaching the technological threshold where the little guys can do it to the big guys. It is amazing. So in early September, the City Council of Portland, Oregon, which we were just talking about, met virtually to consider sweeping legislation outlawing the use of facial recognition technology because it was being used against people in the community, and mostly to people of color, and it was being used in a bad way. The bills would not only bar the police from using it to unmask protesters and individuals captured in surveillance imagery, they would also prevent companies and a variety of other organizations from using the software to identify an unknown person. During the time for public comments, a local man, Christopher Howell, said he had concerns about a blanket ban. He gave a surprising reason. I'm involved with developing facial recognition software, in fact, to use on Portland police officers, since they are not identifying themselves to the public, Mr. Howell said. Over the summer, when the city seized by demonstrations against police violence, leaders of the department had told uninformed officers that they could tape over their name. So they're hiding their identities. Mr. Howell wanted to know, would his use of facial recognition technology become illegal? Portland's mayor, Ted Wheeler, told Howell that his project was a little creepy. But these are creepy times, kids. But a lawyer for the city clarified that the bills would not apply to individuals. So individuals can use facial recognition software, but not the police. Interesting. The council then passed the legislation in a unanimous vote. Mr. Howell was offended by Mr. Wheeler's characterization of his project, but he was relieved he could keep working on it. There's a lot of excessive force here in Portland, he said in a phone interview. Knowing who the police officers are seems like a baseline. Mr. Howell, 42, a lifelong protester and self-taught coder in graduate school, he started working with neural net technology, an artificial intelligence that learns to make decisions from data it is fed, such as images. He said that the police had tear gassed him during a midday protest in June, and he had begun researching how to build a facial recognition product that could defeat officers' attempts to shield their identity. So he's making software that will find the identity of the policemen who are attacking people so they can use it against them. It is kind of like, it only seems fair, right? And I think there's nothing better to get rid of the willy-nilly use of facial recognition software than to use it against the people who are hurting us. They'll be like, yeah, we really don't want people to know who we are. Okay, then you're going to have to stop doing it to us, and then nobody can use it. I think it's a win-win situation, honestly, kids. And also, it holds the police accountable. So if they're doing horrible things, hurting people, laughing maniacally while they're shooting pepper gas at people, I think people in the community should know. I mean, we're paying these guys to protect us, right? But if they're hurting us, then why not? Why not use it against them? So it's only fair. If they're going to use it against us, we get to use it against them. I think that's kind of cool. But the best thing would be to not use it at all. And so I'm hoping that's the actual outcome. But you know what? More power to this guy. He actually found a good use of the technology in a way that might actually protect people. So the authorities targeted so far have not been pleased. The New York Times reported in July 2019 that Colin Chung, a protester in Hong Kong, had developed a tool to identify police officers using online photos of them. After he posted a video about the project on Facebook, he was arrested. Mr. Chung ultimately abandoned the work because they probably tortured him into not. But we're in the United States. They haven't done too much to torture us yet against coming up with software yet, because TikTok, right? So this month, the artist Paolo Cirio published photos of 4,000 faces of French police officers online for an exhibit called Capture, which he described the first step in developing a facial recognition app. He collected the faces of 1,000 photos he had gathered from the internet and from photographers who had attended protests in France. So he took the photos down after France's interior minister threatened legal action, but he said he hoped to republish them. So this could be a tool, a very messed up tool, that could be used to stop police from using our own images against us. So I don't know where it's going to go. I think that a lot of governments are going to get real nervous about it really quickly because no one really wants to have their own face used against them, their facial identity. But maybe it will make our leaders in our police departments more thoughtful about using it themselves. If they feel like they don't want it used, maybe it shouldn't be a thing. So activists say it is relatively easy to build facial recognition tools thanks to off-the-shelf image recognition software that has been made available in the recent years. So in Portland, Mr. Howell was using a Google-provided platform called TensorFlow, which helps people build machine learning models. So it's very doable. The technical process, he's not inventing anything new, he said. The big problem is getting quality images. So how would they do that? You could have databases where people turn in photos of local police, and it could help to build a facial recognition system that can identify every police officer in an area. Not saying we should do that. My favorite outcome would be that we don't have facial recognition used at all. But if they're going to do it, it's only fair that we can do it against them too. So, what do you think about that? What do you think about using our facial recognition against the police officers who are torturing people of color, attacking peaceful protesters? Would it turn the tides in this? I think it could. So I thought that was a really, really interesting article. They had changed their name tags so it wouldn't have their names identified on their uniforms in Portland to personnel numbers. But you could tie the personnel number because they didn't want people doxxed, right? You know, and doxing is, you know, where people like ruin their lives and that. But I think that the police are kind of doxing us as well. So I think that this use of technology all around needs to stop, but it's gonna go both ways. You know, there's gonna be databases of police officers, and people are gonna know where they live, and people are gonna know who they are. And I think it would make more sense if we didn't have it either way. Because I know cops are people, and I'm really, my grandfather was a sheriff, and I mean, it's a very different world back when he was a cop, but I would prefer to not have families hurt by this. I'd prefer not to have police officers targeted at their homes for this. I just want them to be accountable. That's all I want from anything. So if they're going to use it to show that they've done things wrong, that they've hurt people. And I think that is a fair use of it. It's worth looking at it. It says, I've sought some legal advice, says Howell, he wants to make his work publicly available. He's described it as unwise to release an illegal facial recognition app because police are not going to appreciate it to begin with. And they probably will target them. So, using their tools against them. That's about the smartest thing I've heard of in a long time. So, on that note, happy Guy Fawkes Day. Go burn some shit. Don't go blow up buildings. That's not cool, okay? Think about ways that we can make the world better. Try to listen to the angel on your shoulder a little bit more than the devil most days, and we'll do good. And I hope you have a great week. And congratulations to the campaign winners and those who put themselves out on the line to try to make the world a better place. I appreciate you all. You do God's work, right? And we need more people like you to make the world a better place. So maybe next time when we meet, we'll know who our president is. We'll see. So have a great week, guys. I always love getting to talk to you. I hope you have a wonderful week and take care. Love you guys. See you later.